I recently recorded an EP on cassette using an old Tascam 424 Mark II Portastudio. Like everybody else in 2024, I plan to release that EP digitally, so it's going to be available on streaming services. But I wanted to take this particular project one step further. I love cassettes, and it's been a joy to be using them consistently throughout this project, and it would be fitting for the sounds that were recorded on this cassette to be available on other cassettes. So I've decided to record the EP onto cassettes and make them available for sale. And fortunately, I have all the necessary supplies from a project that I worked on a few years ago. Or so I thought. So I thought I would make a video about the process of dubbing down one cassette version of this EP. The core ingredients for this project are a sound source, a blank cassette, and a device that can record said sound onto said cassette. If I was a true DIY gangsta, I would use the original multitracks for this session as the sound source, but I'm not going to do that for a few reasons. Number one, I'm kind of lazy. Number two, I only have one device that can play this back, and it's the same device that I have to use to record these cassettes. And number three, I need to fill more space than I can fill simply with the sounds on that cassette, because I'm going to be dubbing down onto one of these cassettes that I bought from National Audio Company. This is a blank 60-minute cassette. This EP consists of less than 20 minutes of music, and I simply can't bear the thought of putting 10 minutes of music on each side of this and then leaving the rest blank. So I'm going to find something else to fill the empty spaces on this cassette. And the best way to put the final tracks from this EP and the something else onto a cassette is to play them all back using a computer. But before I assemble the sounds that are going to end up on my cassette, I want to do some testing to make sure that all the component parts of that system are calibrated and are going to produce a result that I actually like. First, I connected the Focusrite to my computer, and now I need to run lines from the outputs on the Focusrite to inputs on the Tascam. And this is where I need to make the first of several decisions that flow from the fact that I'm using a Portastudio to do these cassette dubs. Broadly speaking, there are two different ways that you can flow input signal into the Tascam 424. It's got these individual mono channels with a bunch of controls, like EQ and effects routing if that's something you need. It also has 4 other individual mono inputs over in this section, but these don't have independent channels to control them. Each pair of inputs is controlled by one trim knob and a very simple assignment switch. The easiest way for me to record the stereo sound that's going to flow out of this Focusrite into a tape would be to plug into one of these stereo inputs, set the input level, assign the channel to L and R to use the busing system that's critical to the operation of this device. And that's actually where I'm going to start, but I may run into a problem. That might happen because a Type 1 cassette has a very specific sound. The medium itself is known to roll off a lot of treble and as a result emphasize bass. And so on playback, I may think, wow, that's a lot bassier than I was expecting, and wish I had the ability to adjust the sound. To do that, I could edit the sound in Audacity, but I don't want to do that. I want to find a way to get it right in this machine. And the best way to do that would be to use the EQ that's available on these mono channels. But there would be a trade-off to using those channels, because they are independent mono channels, meaning that I can't set the volume of both sides of my stereo sound using only one knob or fader. I'd have to adjust the volumes of left and right independently using the trim controls and the faders down here, and only my ears to know whether I've got it right. I can do that, but it's not my favorite way to work. So I'm going to start by trying to record through one of these stereo inputs. Later, because now I have to take a shower and go to work. But we will be back in 3, 2, 1, and we're back! I'm inserting my tape, rewinding to the beginning, changing the tape speed from high down to normal because I want this to play back at a normal tape speed. I also have to adjust the pitch control back to the center, though we'll see if that actually does what it's supposed to. And then it's time for me to arm this thing to record. The record function selectors on the 424 tell you the 2 different ways that it can record. It can record directly to one of the 4 tracks that it creates on tape using one of the numbered channels that you can plug directly into. Or you can use what it calls a busing system, which allows you to record whatever audio is flowing through the system on the left or right side. Because I'm not plugged into one of these numbered main tracks, that's what I'm going to have to do here. I'm plugged into tracks 5 and 6. I've assigned them to LR, which will take advantage of the busing. And here in the record functions section, I'm going to select bus L and bus R for tracks 1 and 2. Let's play back a section of this audio and see if we hear anything. You can hear things coming through the monitoring system. And I'm seeing the meters move over here in the record section of the, whatever you call this, illuminated screen arm. All right, this is looking good. I'm going to confirm DBX is off. That's good because I don't know of very many just like regular old commercial tape players that use DBX. Many use Dolby, but I'm not going to mess with that here because I don't have it on this device. Now let's record a test. Armed. Let's do this. Okay, that sounds pretty good. It's actually at the pitch that I was expecting, which is good because I had some pitch problems earlier in this project. But I don't have to worry about that. I do have to worry about the sound quality because this simply isn't sounding the way that I want it to sound. Let's try to do a quick A/B comparison. Here's what I want it to sound like. And here's what it does sound like. It's much, much darker in the version that's been recorded to tape. It's not because something went wrong, it's just because of the reason that I cited earlier. This is what happens when you record to Type 1 tapes. So let's try again. I fast forwarded to a section of the tape that doesn't have anything recorded, and I'm moving these chords so that they run through the main channels on the 424. I'm gonna be recording through channels 3 and 4. I have to set each of those to mic line. I'm gonna pan them hard left and right to take advantage of the busing system so that I'm recording to the same left and right bus that I was before. And now that I'm in these channels, I can take advantage of the built-in EQ. I'm going to do two things. First, I'm going to boost treble. I'm going to turn the treble controls to let's turn them to 3 o'clock. And then I'm going to cut lows. I'm going to turn those down to 9 o'clock and see how it sounds. That sounded a lot better. Okay, I think I'm going to try one more thing. I'm going to try to cut a little bit of low mids. That is much closer to what I'm expecting. Just for funsies, let's go back to the first example so we can compare. Night and day! Okay, this is great. Now I have settings on the inbound tracks that I think give me a half-decent representation of what I have recorded. I guess the next step is just to assemble the audio and then record a tape. And here we have it, folks. The assembled audio for playback through here onto here, consisting of just over 23 minutes on side 1 and somewhere over 21 minutes on side 2. Sometimes I stare at the ring. We spent 6 weeks picking. And now I just let it play. At least until it's time to flip the tape. Alright. Let's see how it sounds on a regular tape player. Yours is probably a little bit nicer than this one, but it'll do. It sounds like it's slow. There might be something wrong with this thing though, because it sucks. Okay, let's try this again. Now that's how it's supposed to sound. That means that this is the very first official taped version of this EP. But I can't send it to somebody like this. It's just a bare cassette. It needs more. Unfortunately, I am actually prepared to give this what it needs. Is that so? What do we got? I was so confident, but it seems that I'm not going to be finishing this project today. I need to find some labels that are actually the correct size. Okay. Buy them and then have them shipped to me, which means that I'm not going to have cassettes ready for the release date for this EP, which is Friday, November 22nd. Even in the absence of the finished product, and despite the anticlimax of this video, this process has been really interesting for me and kind of fun, though I don't think it would be fun if I was trying to do this for a large number of cassette tapes. And this is the moment where I spiral into imagining what it must have been like to run like K Records or Sub Pop in the 80s. A small operation run by a small number of people with limited budgets. It would be a lot of work to produce a lot of tapes or records for sale. Work that probably seems crazy to the average DIY DIY musician in 2024. But I really respect that process and the effort that you have to put into it. It takes commitment to produce a physical release the old-fashioned way. I think that commitment and effort was backed by a hope that when you put your music, a physical version of your music in somebody's hands, it was going to mean something to them. And I think there's something to that. I mean, I grew up in the era of physical media, buying cassettes and CDs to play on my own rinky-dink boomboxes, and every one of them was really special to me in a way that no digital file has ever been, and certainly not something that I just streamed. So I think something like this is actually a two-way street. I'm putting more into it with the hope that somebody out there might get more out of it. I'm going to try to remind myself of that as I spend several more hours dubbing just like 5 versions of this tape. When those are done and properly stickered, they will be for sale on my Bandcamp. If that interests you, please go check it out. But don't be a purist. Don't just wait for the cassette to hear this EP. It's coming out on all digital platforms on Friday the 22nd. I think it's a great EP. I think you're going to enjoy it. And if you do listen to it, please do let me know what you think. And let me know in the comments what you think of this video and of the idea of producing physical media in 2024. Does it really have a place? And if so, what is that place? Give me your hope and your cynicism and everything else. Otherwise, take care of yourselves. I'm going to take care of that. I appreciate you. See you around. Okay.